All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the US ACM Student Chapter Seminar Series. For those of you who are new here, we are the student chapter of the US Association for Computational Mechanics. Feel free to join our Discord server to join the community and stay up to date with our events and activities. These talks are usually recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. And if you would like to be our next speaker, please reach out to us. Send us an email at this email listed here, studentchapter@usacm.org. And without further delay, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sharanjeet Kaur. Sharanjeet is a former colleague of mine. She recently completed her PhD at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and is now a postdoctoral researcher at Argonne National Lab. She will be presenting her doctoral research on the high-order cut-cell discontinuous Galerkin difference method for CFD-based design optimization. The talk will be around 25 minutes, followed by an overview of GitHub code. After that, she will be answering your questions. And Sharanjeet, the stage is yours now.
Thank you for the introduction, Osama, and hello everyone. And today I will be presenting a high-order cut cell method that I developed during my PhD. Okay, so in today's talk, after introduction and motivation, I will talk about cut cell discontinuous Galerkin difference method, and I will refer to it as cut-DGD further in talk. And I will show some condition number studies that we perform to see how DGD can help in resolving the small cell problem. And further, I will represent the level set formulation that we have developed to approximate complex geometries. And I will show the application of cut-DGD to study inviscid flow problems for 2 cases. And further, I will quickly go through the sensitivity analysis that we have done to enable gradient-based design optimization, and finally the conclusions. So the main motivation behind this work was to help automate design optimization and also make it more efficient. Now, computational fluid dynamics plays a significant role in aerospace design and analysis, and mostly we combine CFD methods with the optimization algorithms to perform design optimization. However, in case of complex geometries, it is not possible to automate design optimization, which is possible for simple geometries or if the flow doesn't change significantly during the optimization. But in case of complex geometries, where mesh, for example, here I'm showing a curved boundary mesh geometry, where mesh elements also need to be curved. And further, if mesh changes during the, or we encounter significant changes in flow features, then mesh has to be adapted or regenerated accordingly, which means that most of these mesh generation require user interference, which hinders the automation. And further, high-order CFD methods require high-order meshes, which further hinders their adoption in design optimization. So the goal of this work is to eliminate these bottleneck in automation of design optimization. And for that, we chose cut cell methods. Why? Because in a cut cell method, we don't need a boundary conforming grid. Instead, a background grid is generated irrespective of the shape of geometry. And the cells that intersect with the boundary are known as cut cells, as highlighted here. So we are only interested in the flow over these domains, not the inside the geometry. And cut cell methods have been used from last 40 years and to solve different flow equations from Euler to Navier-Stokes. And although most of them are use quad or Cartesian mesh elements, they have been developed to use triangular or tetrahedral. Further, there are some commercial codes that use cut cell method. For example, cut-3D by NASA. It is a very good software that has been used to solve different flow physics problems. However, cut cell methods have their own challenges. So one challenge here I'm showing is here I have a airfoil geometry embedded in the background grid, and we can see that the cells which are like cut cells, which are like intersecting with the boundary. Some of these cut cells can be orders of magnitude smaller as compared to regular shaped cells, and this may make the discretization ill-conditioned. And this problem is known as small cell problem in cut cell community. And the second challenge is if we want to use finite element type discretization, which is the case for me, so we need integration rule that can accurately generate quadrature points within these random shaped cells. Getting quadrature rule for simple geometries is easier, but we want these cut cells have random shapes. So we want a quadrature rule that provides quadrature point within the domain of these cut cells. That is something like this. And in this work, we have explored two of the algorithms developed by Robert Say from Lawrence Berkeley. Okay, although different techniques have been developed to deal with the small cell problem. The first one is cell merging, and it is most popular one, in which they merge small cut cells with the neighboring elements. However, the criteria like when should a cell should be considered small enough that it should be merged with neighbor is not always straightforward. Further, there are stabilization techniques in which penalty terms are introduced to couple degrees of freedom in small cells with neighboring cells. And there are H-box methods, but their extension to higher dimension is very challenging. And the redistribution-based methods have been also developed. And further, there are preconditioners that are developed to deal with the problem. But the problem we are interested in are mostly advection dominated, and there are not much preconditioner for those kind of problems. And most importantly, most of these proposed methods need special treatment for cut cells. So in our approach, we deal with these challenges. We propose cut cell DGD as a solution to small cell problem. And we developed an approximate level set formula so that we could use high order quadrature algorithms from Robert Say. Okay, so what is a Galerkin difference method? They were first proposed in a continuous sense using continuous basis function by Professor Banks and Hagstrom. And then they were further extended to use discontinuous basis function. And I'm also using discontinuous version. So they are similar to finite element methods, but unlike conventional finite element method that achieve high order accuracy by by adding interior degrees of freedom interior to the element, DGD uses neighboring elements to achieve high order accuracy. So the first step in a DGD discretization is to construct a stencil. What is a stencil? A stencil is basically a set of elements that contribute to the solution at a given element K, which includes element K itself. And Nk will be known as size of stencil. So the solution on that element is given here, which is like a linear combination of solution coefficients multiplied by DGD basis function. And I would like to point out that these solution coefficients are defined at element centers, which means in our DGD discretization, we only have 1 degree of freedom per element. And so the main task here is to construct DGD basis functions, which are simply a linear combination of standard polynomials. And in this case, we are using van der Waals matrix polynomials. And the task is to find these coefficients so that we can get that basis function. Now, in order to get, find these coefficients, we use interpolatory conditions, which means that if it is the element center, then the basis function should have value 1 at element center and should be 0 otherwise. We can get this condition only when number of basis function NP is equal to stencil size NK. And this is not always the case because of how we construct our stencil. And we always end up having more number of elements, more NK than NP. And as a result, we have to solve a least square problem. And this is how in the matrix form it looks like. So here is an example of DGD basis function for one-dimensional case. Where I'm showing 10 mesh elements, and we have I'm showing a basis function for 5 different elements. And on the left, where I have a red region, means this cell is cut. I'm not interested in the immersed part. I'm not interested in the red region. I'm only interested in the right part of to the red, which means we have a cut cell here. And we can see that the basis function here is also non-zero at the neighboring element, which means that even though I increase this red region, which will result in very small cut cell, this is still tightly coupled to its neighboring elements. And based on this, we had hypothesis, okay, maybe this can help resolving the small cell problem. And this can be further seen because from here, I'm showing an example of stencil construction. So we have a very small cut cell, which is hard to see, but it is supported by the neighboring elements. And this is degree 1 discretization. As we, in order to achieve high order accuracy, we add more and more elements to the stencil, which means that, okay, sorry. Which means that as we go from P1 to 4, we will add more and more neighboring elements. And you can see that this cut cell is being supported by several neighboring elements. Okay, so this was all the hypothesis. Now, in order to verify that hypothesis numerically, we perform condition number studies. So we want to see how the condition number of mass and stiffness matrix changes as we encounter small cut cells. Here I'm considering linear advection PD, where I have a domain from 0 to 1, and I have a cut cell at the right boundary. Now, in order to get cut cells of different sizes, we define a cut cell ratio, where alpha is 0 to 1, where alpha 1 means there is no cut cell, and as alpha decreases means we are decreasing the cut cell size. And before I compare the condition or I show the condition number plots, I would like to demonstrate the relation between discontinuous Galerkin and discontinuous Galerkin difference matrices. So here is a DG discretization for a simple linear PD, where M is a mass matrix. U is the solution at DG degrees of freedom. K is a stiffness matrix, and B is the right-hand side vector. Now, to get equivalent DGD discretization, let's see, to get the stiffness matrix, we do P transpose KP. Now, what is P? P is known as prolongation matrix. In simple words, its entries are basically DGD basis function evaluated at the given DG nodes. So I will be showing condition number plots for K for DG, let's see, and P transpose KP for DGT. And in this case, I consider DG. I also consider DG with cell merging and finally DGT. So here I'm showing that as alpha decreases from 1 to 10 to the power minus 6, we see that condition number increases rapidly. And DG with cell merging, this is very popular technique again, as I mentioned earlier, to deal with small cell problem. Although it seems like, okay, the condition number doesn't change as the cell size becomes smaller. However, as it approaches, alpha approaches 1, the condition number is increasing. And we suspect maybe this is where the criteria whether to merge with the neighboring element or not becomes unclear. And finally, here we have a DGD, where the condition number remains constant as we go from alpha 0 to, as we decrease alpha from 1 to 10 to the minus 6. And note that we are using different Y scales for all three cases. Okay, so similar results were shown for the mass metric condition number. And I have also done these studies for two-dimensional case, but these are not included here. And from these condition number studies, we concluded that, okay, DGD seems to alleviate, if not eliminate, the small cell problem. And unlike most of other cut cell methods, we don't need any special treatment for cut cell beyond the quadrature rule. So what I mean by special treatment here is, like, I'm not doing any different treatment to my cut cells in my DG discretization. I'm using same stencil construction process for all the elements, irrespective of it is cut or not. But this is not the case for most of the cut cell methods. Okay. Now I will move to level set function, which was a requirement if we want to use high order quadrature algorithm. So before we could use CS high order quadrature algorithm, and I started with 2015 version because that was available at that time. And so it requires a level set function or description of the geometry. What is a level set function? If you want to know if a point lies inside, outside, or on the boundary of the geometry, then we can use a level set function to get to know that. So phi x equal to 0 means 0 level set function describes the boundary of the geometry. Another condition was we cannot use non-smooth function, or even conditional statements cannot be used. And all the level set functions are available for simple geometries like circle, ellipse, but we are interested in aerodynamic geometries like an airfoil. So in order to resolve these or fulfill these requirements, we came up with the approximate level set function that was inspired from sign distance function. So the logic here is, let's see if you are given finite number of points on the boundary, and you know the coordinate information and a normal vector, then you can define a distance function with local distance function called here x minus xi transpose with the normal vector. And we can patch these approximations together. And that's how we came up with this level set function. For more details, you can check out the paper. So we call these psi at the basis function. Here rho is the penalty parameter that controls the decay rate of each term. And it rho by n gamma, which is like number of boundary points, that ratio will be important further when we want to test the approximation accuracy. And here we are regularizing this distance to avoid numerical errors. And epsilon is order 10 to the minus 5. Although I will be using sticking to airfoil case here, but here is an example of how we can use our level set function to represent the space shuttle geometry. Okay, and now we can increase the approximation accuracy of level set by increasing number of boundary points. So here, this is known as a folium-like geometry. So where red is the actual geometry and the blue one is using our level set function. So we see that as we increase the number of boundary points, the accuracy increases. Okay, so although increasing number of points gives us a solution, but this is very computationally expensive approach, especially when we will be moving to 3D geometries. And also, since we want to use higher order discretization, so linear distance function will not be efficient. And so far, we have incorporated quadratic correction, which in addition to normal and coordinate information, also require curvature information for the finite points. And here I'm comparing this linear and quadratic distance function. So we can see that using same number of boundary points, as we move from linear to quadratic distance, the accuracy increases. And because we are interested in airfoil, I'm showing here an ACA 0012 airfoil where a number of boundary points is 199. And I'm using ratio of rho by n gamma equal to 1. So basically rho is equal to 199. And although it seems like it is approximating the geometry correctly, but as we zoom in at the trailing edge particularly, we see that it is not like that accurate. And we increase the ratio further, and we see that as we increase the ratio rho by n gamma, it tries to approximate that sharp trailing edge accurately. Okay. Finally, once we have a level set function, I have cut-DGD, I can use those quadrature rules to integrate my finite element discretization. So I implemented this code in MISO, which is in-house lab software, but it is based on MFM from Lawrence Livermore. And I will show two different cases where one uses exact level set function and other one uses our level set function for airfoil. Here I'm solving a steady isentropic vortex flow. This is a very good case in the sense that it has an analytical solution. So we can compare the errors using the exact solution. I'm not showing details for sake of time like here. So on the left, I have a mesh, which also have non-conforming elements at the inner radius. And this is the radius where I'm imposing slip wall boundary condition. And all other boundaries, we have exact boundary condition. So we can see that I'm showing solution on the right using third order discretization with level of refinement 3 from the baseline mesh. And although from here you will not see, but this is the correct solution. And how do I verify it? I plot density and drag error. So in case of finite element discretization, we established accuracy of a discretization. Let's see if we are using pth order discretization, then we want the error to go down at the rate of p plus 1 as we refine the mesh. And in order to see this, I plot the density error here. And we can see that for p equal to 1 to 4, the error is going at the rate of p plus 1 and sometimes better. And I'm plotting the drag error on the right, which is a functional. And we can see that drag convergence is mostly 2p plus 1 and 2p for p equal to 3, which means drag is super convergent. And I also solved an flow over an ACA airfoil where I use exact levels, our level set function. And here it is zero angle of attack with mark of 0.5. And here I have this baseline mesh. In this case, I'm only using two meshes because I was having some memory issues and because my code is still serial, so it was challenging to go into higher uh, number of elements. So here is an example of how the quadrature algorithm is doing if we use our level set function on the airfoil. So on the left, I'm showing the earlier version, which is 2015 paper. We can see that for different sharp trailing edge and this blunt trailing edge, this is not able to capture the trailing edge, or it is not generating quadrature points along that boundary. However, the second 2022 version was able to do that. And for further numerics, we can see that, one second. Okay. The number of element quadrature points are very high for 2015 case and also for the number of boundary quadrature points. So that's why we plan to only use say 2022 method for further solution on airfoil. So here is an example of airfoil density solution for rho by n gamma equal to 100. And I'm only considering two meshes. Although qualitatively, we can see very minor change from as we go from p equal to 1 to 3, and also from coarse to fine mesh. And if we zoom in near trailing edge, we see that, okay, it's getting little better, but we can't conclude on basis on this. And further, if we check the drag error for it's almost similar across all three discretization, but although with fine mesh, it improves. However, I can't comment on the accuracy on this case because I would need to perform more mesh refinement studies. So we stopped here for this case. Now, the ultimate goal of this work is to enable design optimization. And in this case, we consider gradient-based design optimization. So let's see if we have objective function G, which is a function of design variables alpha and state variables U. And it is constrained by that it should satisfy these discretized governing equations. Then, if we have initial guess x naught, then in a gradient-based algorithm, we want to tell the optimizer, okay, in which direction should you go to this to explore more so that you can find or you can reach the optimum solution, which means that we require the gradient of the total derivative of our objective function with respect to design variables. The more accurate the gradient will be, the more efficient your algorithm will be. So I will focus on how do we get the total derivative. So in order to accomplish that, we define a Lagrangian of the problem where we have objective function, Lagrange multipliers, also known as adjoint variables multiplied by the residual. And we differentiate this with respect to these three variables and designed and so if we differentiate with respect to adjoint variables, we get state equation, which should be satisfied. And by differentiating with respect to state variable, we get adjoint equation. And by differentiating with respect to design variables, we get total derivative. So these are known as first order optimality conditions. So we need to solve adjoint equation to get the adjoint variables. And these adjoint variables will be used to find the total derivative. Okay, so although we also require the Jacobians of functional and objective function and the residual with respect to state variables, and in our case, we use adapt 2, which is like automatic differentiation library. And however, the most tricky part is getting the derivative with respect to design variables. And this is what we'll focus next. So here is a weak form residual for the Euler equation, where fx, fy are the Euler fluxes, and this is a numerical flux function. Now, if I differentiate it, okay. So if I let me go back. So I can replace these integrands with the quadrature rule, and once I do that, I get this. So where we WQ are the and XQ are the quadrature points and weights. And if we differentiate it with respect to design variables, we see that we require these derivatives or with respect to or quadrature rule sensitivities with respect to design variables. And in a cut cell setting, this means that I need to differentiate that quadrature library. And in order to accomplish that, I differentiated Say's algorithm using CPP duals library. It's very simple to use. It's a header-only library. And I say it's almost automatic. Why? Because there was some portion that uses layback, and I have to hand differentiate that part. Okay, so conclusion is we have developed a cut cell framework based on DGD that doesn't require any special treatment for cut cells, and that doesn't seem to face any small cell problem. In addition, it retains some of the desired properties of DG discretization, that is, number of degrees of freedom remain constant across different discretization orders. And we demonstrated that developed a level set function that can be used to represent complex geometries. And these are the references. Most of the details are in my thesis, like all the details are in my thesis here. And I gratefully acknowledge the support from NSF for funding more significant portion of my research. And I also thank my advisor, Professor Hicken, for guiding me in this study, and a big thanks to RPI's correct facility. Okay, so before I take questions, I can go to the code and just quickly show where the code is located, and then we can take questions. And so MISO is the main flow solver library that we will be using, and it is based on MFM. And it has all the build instructions, but for my cut cell branch, we will need some additional dependency or libraries. So this is the main cut cell polyquad code, or the branch that uses the latest quadrature rule. And you can find the cut cell code in the source. Let's go to physics, fluid flow, and then you will find cut cell folder. So this is header file that has all the code for to get the level set, and also that uses newest quadrature rule. And the quadrature rule can be found in Optimal Design Lab algorithm space. So it has two branches. The quad duals is the one that uses the latest quadrature rule, and also it is a differentiated version. So if you're not looking for differentiated version, then you can use quad poly. And since I haven't touched this code for 1 year, so you can ask me if you face any challenges. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now we'll be taking questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? If not, I have a couple of questions. So for you showed a plot of the stiffness and the mass condition numbers, the condition numbers for those. So can you give some intuition as to why the method works so well for the stiffness matrix, but you still see some dependence on the mass matrix? Mm-hmm.
So you mean what's going on here?
Yes.
Yeah, we are also not quite sure of what's going on here, but we are not that worried because the magnitude of condition number is very different from what we get in DG. And also mass matrix is basically only basis function multiplied by area. So it doesn't have many, I don't know, like so many things that we can, it doesn't include any boundary condition or something. So, but stiffness matrix has a lot of stuff, but we don't have a concrete answer for that, like why it's going on.
I see.
Like, yeah.
Okay. The other question is, for purposes of optimization, the errors that you're getting in the airfoil with the points using the level sets, like, is that significant for an optimization problem, for just for optimization purposes?
like we want this to be in reality people use blunt trailing edge, so that can still work, but we wanted to like show like our level set can how we can like modify our level set so that we have a sharp corner, and it should be able to represent those kind of things. So yeah, but I think we would still like some points to be situated at the trailing edge so that our, if we get the solution or something, our quadrature algorithm can actually
Okay. And
find.
for the last question I had is about the library you used for getting the derivatives. So is this some automatic differentiation method? That is the
So,
way to get the derivatives with respect to the,
so you're saying CPP duals library?
yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, because for other Jacobians, we are using adapt2, which is also an automatic differentiation library. And we also use that to differentiate our code like MISO library throughout. But for my quadrature algorithm, I'm using CPP tools. It's an automatic differentiation. But there were some parts where we could not use it and we have to hand differentiate. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this automatic differentiation like super expensive numerically or like memory intensive? Because there's some automatic differentiation library that they build the entire compilation graph and it requires so much memory. But on the other hand, some of them, they don't build the entire compilation graph and they can be more efficient.
Okay, I don't think this is much that expensive, but we haven't done any studies like to know the cost of okay, how much time it is taking. So that are
Okay.
still pending. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, those were all my questions. Do you have any other questions from the audience?
Is there a chat?
It seems like not. All right, so I guess we can thank Sharanjit for the talk. Thank you, Sharanjit, for the presentation.
Yeah, I
And
know it was
then,
very fast. So if you have any questions later, please tell me. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, and if anyone would like to be our next presenter, please send us an email.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right then.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.